For the past 77 years, NATO has been the backbone of Western security. It has survived the Cold War, the fall of Soviet Union, and 2 decades of conflict in Afghanistan. But right now, in April 2026, it is facing something it has never quite faced before. A founding member who is openly asking whether it should stay, and that member is the United States. President Trump has spent the last few weeks calling NATO a paper tiger. He said, and I'm not paraphrasing here, that he is absolutely considering withdrawing the US from the alliance. And a breaking point, NATO allies refused to join America's war against Iran. Trump wouldn't support, he wanted warships in the Strait of Hormuz, but Europe said no. And Trump has not forgotten about it. He called their refusal a stain on the alliance that will never disappear, as he said. So here is the question everyone in Washington and Brussels is now asking. Can NATO actually survive without the United States? Let's start with the legal reality. Trump cannot simply walk away from NATO tomorrow. A law passed by Congress in 2024 requires either a two-thirds Senate majority or an act of Congress before the US can formally exit the alliance. Marco Rubio, now Trump's own Secretary of State, actually co-sponsored that very law. So the formal exit door is bolted shut, at least for now. But here's what makes this dangerous. Trump doesn't need to formally leave or break NATO. He can, as one senator has put it, poison the well and make the alliance functionally defunct without ever submitting a formal withdrawal notice. He could pull the roughly 84,000 American troops stationed across Europe. He could stop sharing intelligence. He could revoke the Article 5 that attack one, attack all clause means nothing under his watch. And that ambiguity alone is enough to shake the entire foundation of the alliance. The US currently accounts for around 60% of total NATO defense spendings. That is not a gap Europe can fulfill overnight. So analysts estimate it would cost roughly $1 trillion and take more than a decade to replace the key military capabilities the US provides. Things like satellite intelligence, missile defense systems, and the ability to strike deep into enemy's territory. So Europe knows this. And Europe is moving. European NATO members are now spending over $450 billion a year on defense. That is nearly double their 2022 levels. Germany has rewritten its own constitutional debt rules to fund its military. Poland is pushing defense spending towards 5% of its GDP. The EU has launched a rearmament initiative worth up to 800 billion euros as well. But the clock is ticking. German military commanders have warned that Russia could be ready to test NATO territory as early as 2027. That is not something to run away with. There will be no return to business as usual in NATO from now, as said by Jim Townsend, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Europe. He said, "We are closer to a break than we have ever been." So whether NATO survives, this movement will depend less on treaties and legal texts and more on whether the trust between allies, between continents, between a 77-year-old partnership can hold together under the weight of one very unpredictable presidency. And that answer, honestly, nobody knows yet. Subscribe for more.